This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, welcome to it, my friends. It is Tuesday. It's like having a Monday, but after a great weekend. And what a spectacular weekend it was for the most part. Well, until Monday, I suppose, when the storms came rolling through all over the state. Rain and flash flooding in some areas, as you may already know. Strong storms moved their way through Michigan, making it kind of an exciting conclusion to a terrific summer overall. I mean, let's talk about the positive, right? It was a terrific summer. It wasn't too hot most of the time. The Labor Day weekend was, well, pretty warm. 90s. Felt like real summer. Kind of a bit of a heat wave, a mini heat wave there at the end. And, hey, it felt great. I spent time up in northern Michigan at my runaway, at my retreat on Lake Charlevoix. And what a parade of boats it was. You know, I don't know what some of these folks do for a living, but God bless them for doing it. Because the parade of hardware was impressive, to say the least. Yes, a parade of hardware that was pretty impressive. All right, well, let's get to the politics of where we've been over the last few days. Number one, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is beating Hillary Clinton in a new poll. It's a shock to many. Trump beating Hillary 45 to 40% with 16% of voters undecided. He wins a huge share of the Democrats' non-white base in this new poll. 25% of African Americans, 31% of Hispanics, and 41% of the relatively small but often likely to vote Asian vote. That's the heart. That's the heart of the attack, and a heart attack at the same time for the Republicans, which predicts that the arrival of even more low-wage foreign workers will yield more GOP votes from low-wage Hispanics, plus more donations from the wealthy investors who pay the salaries of Republican consultants, pollsters, and, well, advertising executives, frankly. In contrast, Trump is committing GOP heresy by touting a border wall, some form of registration and repatriation program for millions of American-trained yet illegal workers, and new curbs on middle-class outsourcing to the roughly 700,000 guest workers used by Fortune 500 companies. Trump's labor supply reform would likely create jobs for Americans, raise wages, and lower profits, all of which might somehow, possibly, in an impossible-to-imagine kind of existential pocketbook process, boost his support among the lower-wage, often jobless Americans who don't own stock on Wall Street, you see. In 2012, the GOP's establishment candidate, former Governor Mitt Romney, won only 27% of Hispanics and a mere 6% of blacks, who are hit hardest by the bipartisan support for cheap, government-dependent migrants. Are you following? But Trump faces huge obstacles before he can reach the Oval Office, of course, especially winning over the large, undecided votes, which the poll says is at 16%. But this Survey USA poll is real. It quizzed 1,000 Americans, the vast majority of which were registered voters, over 90%, on September 2nd and 3rd. And it shows no obvious skew for either candidate. The poll also shows that Trump reverses the long-standing sex gap to plus 10% in his favor. You heard me right. That's the combination of a 15-point advantage among men and only a 5-point disadvantage among women. In contrast, Romney had a 7-point advantage among men and an 11-point disadvantage among women, resulting in a -4 sex gap. Trump is +10. And who is he going to face? Because it's probably about time that people stopped counting Donald Trump out. Even though we're going into a fall where Ben Carson is doing better in some polls, and Ben Carson may receive favor with some Republican voters, but be that as it may, it seems that Rupert Murdoch, the man behind Fox News, for example, looks like Biden is already running. Very likely he wins the nomination, and he will be hard to beat. That's what I have been saying for a very long time, if you go back and read my columns. I say that I believe that Joe Biden would snag the nomination if he got on board, and I believe he would be very hard to beat. Anyhow, you wonder if Biden, and over the weekend, they are lining up for Biden, make no mistake. Joe Biden was out there marching with big labor over the weekend. Joe Biden was out there marching with big labor unions. And how is it going to play out? Well, that I'm not sure. But it won't be long now, and Joe Biden is going to get into this race. See, some people say, no, he's not going to get in. These pundits, no, he's not going to get in. Let me tell you, he's going to run, Joe, run, is what the adoring crowd in Pittsburgh was chanting at him. And he gave a rapturous welcome by the steelworkers there. The vice president gave a rousing speech blaming America's ills on stagnant wages and an unfair tax code that favors the wealthy. Doesn't look like he's grieving his son much more as he jogged through the crowd. His popularity numbers are on par with Trump's right now. And hearing those chants of "Run, Joe, run," it certainly, it elevated Joe Biden walking the annual Labor Day parade. The vice president wearing a black and gold United Steelworkers Union hat and told hundreds of union members that the gap between the wealthy and the poor was hurting the nation. The 72-year-old exuberantly jogged through the crowd of supportive well-wishers who were urging him to join the race for president. Give it a go, Joe. And he will. As I have told you for some time, he will. He most certainly will. So we'll keep an eye on that as we get whirling this week. What else is going to happen? Well, Cindy Gamrett's going to meet with her constituents in Fenville, apparently. We'll take a look at that and talk about that. And we're going to talk about this horror show that had the police union boycotting Barack Obama, plus a Michigan football fan group leaving $3,000 on the table for a waitress. We'll talk about it straight ahead on the Steve Gruber Show.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Monday, so good to me. Monday morning.
Welcome to it. It is the Steve Gruber Show. Thank you for your support. Brought to you in part by Mesa this day. Good business, good health, and great schools. Mesa bringing you this hour of the Steve Gruber Show. I appreciate the support from that group, which, by the way, was the best thing that ever happened to my mother, a school teacher. Mesa, probably the best thing that ever happened to her as far as her retirement went. Real quickly, looking around where we are at the gas pump. Well, good news for a lot of Michigan motorists today. Gas well below $2. The cheapest I could find on GasBuddy.com is in Lambertville. It's the Kroger store. It's Secor and Stearns. $1.93, and it's on its way down. In Plainwell, the Meyer store there at $1.96. Plainwell with a lot of different stations at $1.96. In Otsego, $1.97. Dearborn, $1.98. South Haven at $1.98. At Murphy USA and Village Express. So cheap gas all over. And where are we compared to, say, gas of yesteryear, if you will? A year ago, the average price in Michigan was $3.61 a gallon. So, pretty easy math is, for some folks, it's $1.70 a gallon less today. $1.70 less a gallon today. So if you use 2,000 gallons a year, that's $3,400 in savings. Pretty simple, isn't it? 3,400. If you use a couple thousand gallons a year, say you drive, 25,000 miles in a normal sized vehicle, big vehicle, your tax savings, $3,500. I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's, if you're a family that uses 3,000 or 4,000 gallons, well, you can do the math. $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 in savings, depending on how well it's gone. Yeah, spectacular. All right. Well, if you missed this yesterday, this is kind of a really important, a really important event. A union boycotting President Barack Obama, a police union. Jerry Flynn, a Lowell, Massachusetts cop on leave while serving as executive director of the New England Police Benevolent Association, said his organization's executive board has chosen to boycott President Obama's Labor Day breakfast address in Boston to make a statement about violence against police. Our members are enraged at his lack of support of law enforcement. It's clear that he has an agenda, and unfortunately the police are not part of that agenda. I mean, the president, as you know, has made headlines over and over again since winning the White House by speaking out on the killings of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and others. He held a Rose Garden ceremony for the parents of U.S. military deserter Bo Bergdahl. Sadly, however, in the wake of the multiple murders of police officers around this nation over the past few days, he has said exactly nothing. He has not sent anyone from his administration like he did to Ferguson, Missouri, or Sanford, Florida. He hasn't shown any compassion at all for the fallen officers. His silence gives implicit support for the Black Lives Matter movement that has called for the killings of police officers. Pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon. Oink, oink, shoot, shoot, and the likes of those kind of comments. The president now wearing a sad badge of dishonor for turning a blind eye on police officers in this nation. It's a horror show. It's an epidemic of lawless people trying to kill police officers for no apparent reason. The biggest case in point, of course, is the lieutenant who was pumping gas in Houston. Over 7,000 people turned out at that church for his service. And where was Obama or a member of his administration? It was a unity breakfast. Unity for who? Referring to the looting and destruction in Ferguson, Missouri following the shooting of Michael Brown, he had a lot to say. I mean, he had the opportunity to do things then, and he didn't. And all he's done is escalate. And this is Jerry Flynn, a quote from Jerry Flynn. All he's done is escalated and allowed these people that are hell-bent on causing problems to do so. We cannot continue to have people who have no intention of doing anything but to be disruptive. These are not good citizens. These are thugs who go out and try to cause problems. You can't continue to have this kind of hatred and animosity and the lawlessness that's going on in this country at the cost of police officers' lives. It's irresponsible of the president and of his administration. I think it would send a message to people in law enforcement that we have a commander-in-chief who actually is backing the people who are in the war on the street, and this is a war on the street, make no mistake. He has got to come out and ask you to be a unified group and to support law enforcement. He has a new attorney general. What is her agenda? What is her message going to be that she's actually putting forth? I don't know the answer to that question, but certainly what he's doing now, what he hasn't done now, has been supportive of those in law enforcement. Very strong words from police officer unions represented in New York and Massachusetts. So we'll keep an eye on how the unions react. All right, we'll get to the Todd Corser, Cindy Gammert expulsions, which are on the way, but we'll have to wait for a little bit later in the program. Cindy Gammert's going to meet with her constituents in Fenville today. That's supposed to happen at 7 o'clock tonight. Last couple of times she's canceled. We'll see if she actually makes it. Plus that tip from Michigan football fans of $3,000 to a waitress. We'll tell you about that. It's a good story. You'll hear it straight ahead on this Tuesday edition of the Steve Gruber Show.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
In a white room with black curtains near the station.
All righty, welcome back to it. It's 33 after on this Tuesday. Hey, if you want to join the conversation, the number doesn't change just because we've been gone for a few days. The number is 888 900-9966, 888-900-9966. You can also find out a lot more at stevegruber.com, where you can hit the listen live button for your chance to listen at work. Listen to podcasts by hitting the podcast spot, of course, powered by Podbean, so you can get all the interviews you want. Our next guest, Michael Daugherty, senior writer for Cyber Defense Magazine. He's also a board member at Snoopwall, powerhouse security firm when it comes to cyber security, and a regular contributor here on the program. Michael, welcome back.
Good morning.
Well, you are up early, but at least it's not West Coast time, right?
Yeah.
See, better than the last time. So, okay. So let me see. Libya security briefs, Algerian hostage information, a lot more. There's a hacker out there, if it is to be believed, that says he has all of Hillary's cache. He's got the whole cache of all her emails. There it is, and he'll put it up to the first buyer that puts up $500,000. First of all, do you believe it?
No, but that's not important. It's not important because, I mean, it's old stuff. If it was a real deal, it'd be worth a lot more. But that's not the point. It's just a matter of time before a foreign government busts her on this. And all she's going to do is the same thing she's doing now, which is gaslighting, which is the classic Clinton circle and confuse, repeat the mantra enough that she wears us all down so that, many people's brains go numb through her constant hypnosis. And, it's utterly amazing how because she's already got her tentacles so deep in the Democratic Party. I don't know how they'll rip her out of the spot. So,
they're going to, and it's going to be ugly.
For sure, but I think it's inevitable.
Well, I think it's ugly. And when you say gaslighting, what do you mean by that?
I mean when there are actually people that believe this crazy stuff like Bill Clinton never was with Monica Lewinsky, or that she really had nothing to do with this email server. That these things are just made up because she's denied them over and over, and there are people that believe it. Once they hear it enough, they believe this crazy stuff. So they think the sky is green and that there are unicorns and that it's all a big conspiracy.
Whoa. What do you mean there's not unicorns?
No, I'm sorry.
Who are you messing with?
Unicorns. No.
You're making it feel like Monday around here.
That's inside the Beltway, they're unicorns. Outside the Beltway, they're not.
Alert. All right, so All right, so here's the other side of the coin. All right, so maybe there's not some guy named Vladimir trying to get $500,000, but there has been a lot of discussion that because Hillary Clinton's server was out there for so long, and that, Clinton 33 at whatever it was, her private email deal, that there are a lot of people, and it might include yourself, that already believe that her information was compromised long ago.
Well, yeah, this guy's not wrong. The point about him is it's an older breach that's out there, and it's been out there. But see, this is what people don't understand about emails. You have a receiver and a sender. And she was sending to a lot of powerful people that also weren't Secretary of State and are also very vulnerable. And she is a sitting duck, high target person, and she cannot erase the past. It's just a matter of time.
So here's the one that I don't understand.
Go ahead.
Here's the one that I don't understand, because they were saying that, for classified documents, classified documents and unclassified documents are on two entirely different systems when it comes to the government, right? That's what they tell us. And that doesn't easily transfer from classified to unclassified, i.e. to get onto her server to be disseminated in whatever fashion possible. So how do you think that happened? Because if that did happen, if some of her underlings, if some of her staff members did that, there are many felonies involved with that kind of behavior, according to everything that I've read, in order to take something from a classified server and bring it over.
This is where you have the tentacles and the protection, and this is where people tighten together because they're all going to go down the ship. I mean, she didn't do all herself. This is what happens when you have fearful environment. Look at the people that are afraid to go against her in case she does get the nomination. I mean, the Clintons rule on fear, top down. And you want to be in the it's the Godfather. This is the Godmother. So, and she's making them all offer they can't refuse, and and a lot of people don't want to gamble right now. When it falls, it'll fall. It's going to take a much mightier push than this, but the wagons are circling. But they don't go down easy. They get away with so much.
In a related story, a strange phenomenon.
The same thing. I mean, she's not apologizing. She's wordsmithing. But the biggest thing is she's speaking lawyer talk, and everyone thinks she's speaking English. And if you realize she's speaking lawyer talk, you have to look at every single word she uses.
Naturally, and how it gets used depends on what the definition of is. And in a related story, a strange phenomenon of headless horses found in the Virginia countryside.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of the Godfather.
But it wasn't her. It was her because she would never mess up her own linen. So, you have to watch what she doesn't do.
Fair point. She has people to do that. You either do this, or I'm going to tell everybody about what you're up to. And that's what you're talking about, the tentacles. But here's the thing. The grudge match, though. See, you're forgetting one person. That's Valerie Jarrett, who doesn't, from all accounts, who really has been the key secret advisor somewhat, because most people don't know who Valerie Jarrett is, but she really is the number one go-to person for Barack Obama for 6.5 years now, who he doesn't do anything without her approval, I don't think. And she does not like Hillary Clinton from all accounts. I mean, not even remotely.
Right, and that's why they can push Biden, but, that these are people grabbing for power and losing power, and it's a Shark Tank, and they'll all eat each other. It's going to be very fascinating to watch because, see what they'll do, see if they'll come to some sort of detente before they all realize it'll be like the end of the War of the Roses, and they'll kill each other, and then a Republican will be in the White House. So we'll see what happens.
Might happen
because
anyway.
They're all awful. They're all awful people. They're terrible people.
I'm not sure if a Republican will win the White House, but Donald Trump might.
Well, and doesn't it just scare everybody? And that's they say first the Democrats, then the rhinos.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all up to the American public.
Well, it certainly is, and at this point, I guess we'll wait for the real hacker to release some information. But, as it goes, all these emails keep getting dumped anyway, and there's plenty to glean from those and the bits that keep coming out. I mean, it keeps us entertained, at least for a while, till the main event comes along.
Well, we got a year to go, so let's just keep fanning the flames. They're not going to let this go right now. We got to get to spring before we really let this thing roll.
Well, exactly. I mean, let's just keep it up. And we've got, of course, the congressional hearings in October to fan the flames towards the end of October. Michael, always a pleasure.
All right, good talking to you.
There you have it, Michael Daugherty, senior writer for Cyber Defense Magazine and a board member at Snoop Wall, powerhouse cybersecurity firm. He wrote the book, The Devil Inside the Beltway. You should read it. You should read The Devil Inside the Beltway and how your government behaves when dealing with business and so forth. It is Tuesday on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
If you stop me up, if you stop me up, I'll never stop. If you stop me up, if you stop me up,
All righty, then. Welcome back to it. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Tuesday.
I'll be running hot.
Told you about the shock poll that came out that Donald Trump is beating Hillary Clinton. And maybe more shocking than that, according to the Survey USA poll, is that Trump gets 25% of the African-American voters, 31% of Hispanics, 41% of Asian voters. Very small block there, but still it's all enough to power him past the finish line into victory lane, potentially. Here to sort it out is the professor himself, Allan Saxe from the University of Texas, Arlington. Professor, welcome back to the program.
Oh, good morning.
How are you doing?
I am hoarse, but other than that, I'm okay. I've been talking too much, but I'm okay.
Too much college football over the weekend. I'm sorry about that. It happens.
It is. My school is OU, and they beat the mighty Akron, Ohio team.
The Akron Zips?
The Akron Zips, exactly. What a deal.
Yeah. Anyhow. All right. So I'll help you out here for a second. But here's the thing with Donald Trump. He's got this new poll out that shows him beating Hillary. A couple of things about this. First of all, it starts to cement Trump as a legitimate candidate. Is he's picking up 25% of African voters, 31% of Hispanics, 41% of the, as I said, relatively small Asian vote. It means that he's moving into a position where he can beat Hillary. It also fans the flames of the Run, Joe, Run movement of Joe Biden, who was in Pittsburgh over the Labor Day holiday with steelworkers and donning his U.S. Steelworkers cap and so forth. What do you make of the Trump moving into the lead now over Clinton?
It is surprising, but it's just in one state. And I'm putting my feelings aside. I still do not think that Donald Trump is going to get the nomination. I would look even more toward Dr. Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, some of the others perhaps. Donald Trump, no doubt about it, has livened up everything. He's brought up subjects like immigration that I think is long overdue and is very, very important. But I still don't think he's going to get the nomination. And if he does, I don't know if he can beat Joe Biden. I think he can beat Hillary Clinton, but I don't know if he could beat Joe Biden or not. And I do believe that Joe Biden's going to enter the race. And I think it's going to be a Biden-Elizabeth Warren ticket if he does. And that's going to be a pretty formidable ticket.
Well, that's what I think. I think Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren form a pretty strong ticket, although I think Joe Biden is, overall a pretty weak candidate. And we need a strong leader at this point in American history.
Oh, absolutely.
And Joe Biden is not it. And I don't know who is. And whether you like it or not, Donald Trump might not be everybody's flavor, but he'd be a strong leader, might be a strong, obnoxious leader at points, but he would be a strong leader. And I think that people that continue to count him out might be doing so at their own peril.
Well, it's not the fact that I wouldn't want somebody like Donald Trump. I just don't think that he's going to get the nomination. The media is probably not on his side, and that's a very, very important thing. But I would agree with you. I think that this coming presidential election season is probably one of the greatest elections in American history, and that important. I was watching last night the Civil War series, which I've seen several times by Ken Burns, and I kept thinking about the Civil War in relationship to what's going on right now. Obviously, things are very different, but I would still say that this country is very divided, but America's part of the world is very crucial. The thousands, if not millions, of immigrants roaming all over the world, banging on doors, trying to get in. The rise of Islamic extremism in the world. This is a very, very critical time. And America definitely needs a strong president, you're right. But I'm not sure if Donald Trump can do it.
Now, I don't know, but the more that he's out there, and every week his poll numbers go up. We haven't seen his poll numbers start to wane yet. They seem to be stronger every week. Now, Ben Carson has risen in the polls, but not at the expense of Donald Trump, at the expense of others.
That's true.
Yeah.
On
September
16th, I'm sort of waiting for the debate. September 16th is going to be an interesting debate. I want to see what Donald Trump does in that debate. If he sort of calms down a little bit, if he presents himself in a different way, that could be a pretty interesting sign. So I'm waiting for the debate. Also, we have not gone to any of the states where you really have to get the delegates out. The caucuses in Iowa, the presidential primary in New Hampshire, those are very, very important. Hillary, I'm looking at Hillary even more interestingly. Is she really cooked, or will Hillary come back or not? I cannot imagine that somebody would vote for her at this point. But many of the Democrats are so diehard, they are so connected to her, that she may still pull it out.
Time for Hillary, ready for Hillary. It's all about Hillary. See, that's the problem with her campaign. It's all centrist upon her and her ego.
She said something the other day that I thought was really interesting or strange. She said she knew that this campaign season was going to be a rough one, and she was ready for the campaign. And I'm thinking to myself, no, she didn't. She thought it was going to be...
Exactly. I spoke out loud in my truck, same thing. I heard the same thing. I knew this was going to be a tough, competitive campaign. I looked at the radio. Out loud, I said, no, you didn't. Right to the radio.
It was going to be just a walk, just a coronation. But it is a shock. There was a photo of her yesterday on the Drudge Report. It may still be out. And it shows her almost crying. And I don't know when that photo was taken. I'd like to know when it was taken. But it was the most excruciating photo of Hillary Clinton that I've ever seen. I think it's an old photo, but it was really, just really...
Telling.
Telling is the word, that's right.
Professor, great morning. Go take care of that throat, and we'll talk next week.
Oh, I am. Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience with me. I really was at a high school football game, and this is where it happened.
Professor Allan Saxe, everybody.